Corps came into being. But to tell the stories I would like, I must go back to its beginnings.
It concerns the two youngsters who had had their first experience of a death in the family.
The two boys were discussing the death of their grandfather, when one of them asked,
"What would you like to say when you were dying?"
And guileless boys that we were, we occupied ourselves for quite a bit in making out this last dying speech and confession.
I'm happy to say, however, neither of them had this dying confession always in his mind, particularly as in the household that they lived, enjoyed, and happy, healthy brand of religion.
Years went by, and then, school days nearly over, the Salvation Army came into their lives. The younger was the first to be converted. He had more than one hard row to hoe because of his brother's teasing. But eventually, the brother partnership was resealed when the elder was saved. And many a jolly time they had, both tumbling into Salvation Army ways like a healthy-minded boy takes to a swimming pool in summer.
The elder brother was the big drummer, and only by carefully looking around the side of his drum could he mark out the path for his future.
The younger, more alert than the elder, was a side drummer, an appointment needing more skill than the other. And in this, there were all the possibilities for a rift in the lute, though to the honor of both, I would say it never came to pass.
But what fun they had.
And what persecution, too. In those days, Salvation Army youngsters were not free from physical abuse. And more than once, the little soldiers open air had to scatter before the attacks of grown men.
On one such occasion, however, some of their elder juniors turned on the persecutors to rescue the sergeant major who had been knocked senseless by a particularly cowardly ruffian.
Days in the junior corps were followed by happy times in the senior band. Bandmaster Tom, like many of his kind, had his eye on the boys, and on one fine day, the elder was promoted to the big band, to be followed in a few months by the younger, who took on the old, battered side drum of very ancient pattern. And nearly crazy he drove his parents and neighbors with his annual hour practicing of tattoos and such like contraptions of the man who first invented side drums.
He was known to all as Charlie, the drummer boy, and he filled the part to life. A rollicking Salvation Army boy, eyes full of fun, a mop of dark brown curls that every girl envied, and a voice like a cathedral choir boy.
He had a smile for every old woman, a hand for anybody's burden, and a joking repartee for every curse. He had, too, a fit and a muscle which could put the fear of the Lord into any bully who thought that a smile betokened a sissy.
He would venture into districts where no other self-initiative man or woman dared to go.
He's a real kid,
They had said.
And none of your freight cat Salvationers.
Charlie was about 16 when he was promoted to glory. And well do I remember that day. It was marked by one of the worst of thunderstorms. The front door, a constant stream of callers inquired after him. Errand boys, fishermen, postmen, street scavengers, policemen, and his fellow comrades of the army.
"How's the drummer boy?" they would ask.
Nobody seemed to know the cause of his dying. Perhaps in these clever days, we might have been told.
My head,
He wailed, and only long after did we hear of a cowardly lout who had crept up behind him and struck him a blow in the back of his head. But he made no fuss about it, for what was a kicker a blow to a Salvationist then?
In the room which he and I had shared, I was watching him pass out. It was my initiation into the fact of death. I had never before seen anyone die. As I heard his heavy breathing and watched his tossing head, now shorn of all its curls, I looked on with a dread, which was more than half curiosity. Is this how people die?
He said.
Then, all of a sudden, there came to my memory the long-forgotten night in which we had planned, Charlie and I, what we would say when we were dying. And in the midst of my fears and wonderments came the thought, what will he say? So many things had come into our short lives in the intervening years.
What will he say?
His father came into the room and looked down at his bed. His mother, at the foot of the bed, holding back as she always did the tears of his sorrow. He was seated by the bedside.
Father, a good, anxious, religious man, stooped over me and said,
Charlie boy, you're going to heaven, and you'll see.
Mentioning a brother whom neither of us had ever known, but whose memory as our firstborn boy was evergreen to our father and mother's hearts.
Yes, Dad,
Said Charlie.
I shall, but I shan't know him, shall I?
That's so.
Said his father, who would have known his firstborn son anywhere.
That's so, but you'll see Jesus, won't you? You'll know him.
Just at that moment, the storm clouds over the town were rifted by a shaft of the setting sun flaming through the open window across my dying brother's pillow. He looked up at our father and said, ever so huskily,
Yes, Dad. I will know him, and he will know me.
Now, do not misunderstand me. I know you will not, but I sat back, free from the moment, from the strain of listening to that faint whispering, and I could have laughed with holy glee. What more could he have said in testimony? His dying words have long since been a tradition among us, to be passed on to those whom he is no more than a name. And as far as I know, not one of us has since that day passed from death into life without similar testimony. I shall know him, and he will know me.
They laid his useful body to rest in the cemetery at the foot of the hill, where now lies the goodly company of those of the old court.
The band played him to the grave, to the tune of a song they had but recently learned. He was new among them then. Grace there is my every debt to pay, blood to wash my every sin away, power to keep me spotless day by day, in Christ for me.
And never do I hear that music, thinking back to that Saturday afternoon, where policemen, military, and field high and low degree stood at attention while the Salvation Army drummer boy was laid to his last resting place.
there is a stone at his grave, the spot where it rests.
Charlie, the Salvation Army drummer boy.
It has been a place of pilgrimage for more than one Salvationist.
The evening after Charlie died, some of us went for a walk by the seashore. The sinking sun was a torrent of purple and gold, and the soft evening clouds were a picture of snowy peaks and golden domes. One could almost discover the gates of the celestial city in that setting.
The bells of Paris Church, high on the